Welcome to LOA Today. Walt Thiessen and Mark Evans here. Anne Marie McEwen will hopefully be joining us in a little bit. Today is Sunday, October the 28th, 2018. It is 8 p.m. New York time. This is your weekend dose of happy. And we are glad to be able to broadcast to the Law of Attraction Changed My Life group at the moment that we're also recording the podcast live. We're embracing technology, Mark. And sometimes it embraces me back around my neck, but nevertheless, I am still wrestling with it, and we're actually going to win this thing. We're actually going to come out with something really cool by the time we're done here. At least that's what my hope is,
Well, I'm on the air with you now without my phone, so that's a huge accomplishment.
Yes, that's right.
Light years from last week.
So anyway, I wanted to tell people a little bit. Oh, and I'm getting special delivery here. This is
There's
pretty
your
cool.
dinner.
Yeah, there we go. All right. So I'll try not to chew into everybody's ear here, but no, we got a couple of good things going on this week. First of all, we have scheduled for Wednesday during our 4 p.m. New York broadcast. That's 9 p.m. London, 1 p.m. Los Angeles time. We are going to be doing a guided meditation with my co-host, Cindy Chavez. She is quite an expert at this kind of thing, and we've already put the notification out on the Facebook group, and people are already signing up for it, so that's a good thing. And we're also going to do a special on Friday that is not yet announced. It will be announced probably tomorrow. But it's going to be basically a Q&A for everybody in the Law of Attraction group, Law of Attraction Changed My Life group on Facebook, who just want to come in with some basic questions to have our energy life coach, Linda Armstrong, answer. So you'll see more details about that if you're in the group. If you're not in the group, hey, we're going to still share the details through the podcast, and you'll be hearing all about that. But just wanted to let people know we are shaking and baking here. We are moving and grooving in terms of reaching out to more people and getting more listeners going and getting into a good place. So that's the way my weekend's been going. You can see what I've been doing all weekend. I haven't really taken the weekend off. I've been working all weekend. But how's your weekend been going?
Well, you're offering some things that people would have to pay a lot of money for.
Yeah, well, they're going to get it for free, which is cool.
And you're getting it for free. Yeah, that's what I mean. That's awfully nice.
Yeah. So how's your weekend been?
It was good. I drove all day to make sure I got back here in time. I was my agency said I was working at a casino in Cincinnati, but the thing was in Indiana. That's
a
glitch. Why they said Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the closest city because these casinos are out in the middle of nowhere on the Ohio River. It's in Rising Star, Indiana, and we had a blast all weekend long.
Very good. So that sounds like it was a lot of fun. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's good shows.
That's focusing on what you want rather than what you don't want. That's the topic for today, by the way. Focusing on what you want rather than what you don't want. And there's actually quite a bit of impetus behind this particular topic. But probably the main one is these days there is a lot of focusing on what we don't want. It happens in news, it happens in politics, it happens in entertainment, it happens in a lot of stuff. And funny thing happens when we do that, Mark. We attract more of what we don't want when we do that. So, I mean, it's a simple concept, but we figured, let's talk about that because it is so easy to get sucked in to focusing on what we don't want because, well, there's a major negativity suction vacuum cleaner that kind of sucks us into all the negativity that's out there. And, it can be a little bit of a challenge to kind of, go up against that and say, you know what, I'm not going to get sucked into that. I mean, how often do you get sucked into the negative stuff that's out there?
In my business, it's a daily thing if you're not careful.
Yeah.
But that was the first thing. We talked about this last week. That was one of the things I took from when I read The Secret the first time was I asked the universe to please don't give me bad things because that's what it hears.
Right.
It's, you specifically ask for the good things. And you start, I guess, from the get-go. You're taking the right approach, right attitude.
Exactly. But it can still be very difficult to focus on the good stuff because we are, as human beings, trained to focus on reality, right? You have to be realistic. That's the rule, isn't it? I think that's the rule that our parents handed down anyway, and the teachers handed down. You got to be realistic about these things, right? The only problem is if you're being realistic in a way that the
world we live in.
Well, yeah. Well, tell me
look what happened to Pittsburgh.
Oh, geez.
And,
yeah.
It's really hard to stay positive. I don't know how those people are getting through the weekend.
Oh, that's just, that's a nightmare.
They got to find a way.
It's a nightmare. Yeah. It's just awful what they're going through. And that actually ties into something else we're going to do on, I think this is going to be part of what we'll plan to do on Friday. We're going to do some experiments, starting with the Friday podcast with basically using group energy, putting out group energy. There's a woman named Lynn McTaggart who wrote a book, I believe it's called The Power of Eight. And she did a whole bunch of studies, of experiments with groups of people, putting out energy to help people heal, to help reduce violence, to help people with their personal lives achieve success, better health, all kinds of stuff, with tremendous results. So we're going to try to see if we can replicate that with the podcast. And when you run into an event that is as so horrific as what happened in Pittsburgh, it can seem impossible to find any way around that. I mean, there's so much pain, there's so much suffering.
Oh, yeah.
But nevertheless, it doesn't help to focus on the pain and the suffering continuously. So we're going to see if we can try to help turn things around. We can't fix what happened, of course. We can't change what happened. But we can change our focus to what we want instead. And I don't know that we'll necessarily specifically be focusing on Pittsburgh. We'll probably do it in more general ways or in ways that are specific to the needs of people who are listening in live when we do the podcast on Friday. But I believe there's a lot of good that we can do in terms of helping to pass along positive energy and basically help people get back into a positive space, particularly if they're in a negative space. It doesn't have to be something as horrific as that. People, I mean, I was looking on Facebook today, just before the podcast, a lot of people posting things about how their lives are falling apart. Things are just not working out for them. They get very discouraged and so forth. It's another example of how, first of all, they obviously need to try to change their focus, but also we can help support people like that. We can help give them positive attention, positive energy, and we can help make their lives better. So anyway, that's our goal. That's what we're hoping that we're going to do with the show. And today we're
coming along at a perfect time.
Oh yeah,
your timing couldn't be better.
There is such a demand, in my opinion. It's an untapped demand, and it's an unrealized demand for feeling better, for being in better places. I don't think most people even realize how much they need it. You know what I mean? Like, I think most people don't understand.
There's a lot of people I know. I know too many people that aren't happy unless they are miserable.
Well, there's that too.
Ever met anybody like that?
Yeah, that's true.
You just want to turn it around.
Well, ultimately, you really can't help somebody who doesn't want to feel better. So that's simply a truth that we have to deal with. So if somebody wants to feel miserable, well, okay, have at it. Feel free. Enjoy yourself. But I wish there was something I could do for them other than to encourage them to, switch their mindset around. But for those people who do want to feel better, I think there are a lot of people who want to feel better about stuff. They just don't know how to do it. They haven't read The Secret. They haven't seen the movie. They haven't read any of the other books. They haven't been to an Abraham workshop. They haven't read Neville Goddard. They haven't read any of this stuff. And they don't know what it takes to get yourself into that happy, positive frame of mind, especially when you're in a depressed frame of mind, a depressed state. Because first of all, it's a really large step. You don't want to do it all in one step. But it just seems impossible. I remember when I first got exposed to The Secret, I remember wondering how you move your own emotional state, because I didn't know of any way to do it. I thought I was dependent upon what happened around me. Like I thought I had to watch somebody like you doing a comic routine, right? That's how I would get myself to feel better. I couldn't actually do it myself. That was the belief, and I think it's a belief a lot of people have.
It's a good point.
I mean, you kind of rely on that.
Like a minute ago, you have to decide to.
But you do.
Yeah, I do.
but you rely on that for your routine, right? I mean, you rely on being able to lead your audience to the place you want them to be so you can get them to laugh at it.
Yeah, and in most cases, the places I work, the secret advantage is that they planned their week. They called their friends. They scheduled it. They got babysitters so they could come and laugh. Mm-hmm. That's half the battle.
That's true.
And so
yeah,
you get a little leeway. If they may not think you're that funny, they're wanting you to be funny.
Yeah, they're giving you the best shot possible, right?
Yeah. Now I have to kill everyone that's been listening to this.
Oh no!
The secret's out. I blew it.
Oh no!
I'll lose my union card.
But when you're doing a comic routine, first of all, I mean, how long does a routine usually last? I mean, I've heard they're usually like 10 minutes or 15 minutes maximum. Is that what typically is?
It depends. When I'm headlining shows, like I did this weekend, it was a 45-minute show. Sometimes an hour, sometimes 30. Then some places, like you said, 10, 15 minutes. It just depends where you are on the show and what they want from you.
Mm-hmm. I was just thinking, I
So it
saw
really does vary.
I saw a video of, I think it was a biopic on Robin Williams, and they were interviewing famous comics who had been coming up around the same time that Robin did. One of them, David Letterman, and Letterman commenting how, he and his friends, they had finally honed their 15-minute comic presentation, and then they see Robin get up there just going crazy for the next hour, and they were wondering how on earth were they going to compete with this guy, right? So that's what maybe I was wrong, but that's what made me think about 10 to 15 minutes.
Well, those are like showcase sets out in L.A. and New York. That's usually all they get. But then once you're actually your own show and you're performing at clubs, theaters, casinos, whatever, then they want the hour from you.
Oh, okay. So you actually have to have a fair amount of material in case you get that opportunity.
Yeah, well, that's mostly what I do, is the shows where they hired me to do 45 to 60 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And when they, a couple of weeks ago, when they had me actually open for a person that was a big name, they dropped me down to 23 minutes, and that was a piece of cake. I could just cherry pick it. It was over before. I felt like it was over before I started. When you're earlier on, you're all upset because you're not getting the stage time. But now I just say, "Are you still paying me?"
Yeah, right.
Whatever you want.
That's good. That's good. Yeah.
Put the ego aside and just give them the best you got.
That's it. Yeah. When did you first discover that you could move other people's emotions by making them laugh? Because I was talking a moment ago about how it's hard sometimes to believe that you can move your own emotions, but you also have to be able to believe you can move somebody else's emotions. How early was that for you when you could figure that out?
Well, I was never the class clown. I love jokes. I can remember when I was a little kid, if George Carlin or Rodney Dangerfield was going to be on The Tonight Show, I would sneak downstairs and watch it. And then my mom would always bust me when I was trying to sneak back to my room. And looking back, I think she let me watch it, but still had to bust me.
Oh, yes, right. Well, it's the principle of the thing, right?
Yeah. And I had, for years, I could, for fun when I was out with my friends, I'd say, give me a category, I'll give you a joke. And there's nothing that I'd ever written. And I was really good at that, but you only have so much REM space in your head, and so when I started writing my own material, most of those jokes got shoved out. I couldn't tell you half of those jokes, but I'm more worried about now what I write. But so I've always gotten myself in trouble. I found a sense of humor. I love to joke around. I love to tell jokes, and I tell you what, that first time I got on stage and had 300 people crack up, it's not a feeling you can describe. You have to do it, and when then they give you money for it.
That's almost like the icing on the cake, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Because what they don't understand is we would do that for free, the show, because we have to. It's in you. You got to do it. It's a passion. It's a love. What we're paid for is the travel, like my 8.5-hour drive to and from Indiana this weekend.
Yeah, that's a drive.
That's the tough part. And that's what, actually, 8 hours just down the street in my world. That was an easy one. The traveling and the layovers and the canceled flights and all that, that's what you're really paid for.
Mm. Yeah, that makes sense.
And the secret's out.
Yeah. Well, that's all right. It's a good secret, though. And
yeah.
the fact is that I do the podcast out of love, and it makes sense that you would do your comic routine out of love, because why else would you put yourself through all that? I mean, it's a very common knowledge thing how difficult it is to do stand-up, because your ego is basically on the line. You can be shot down just as easily as you can be cheered, and every single time you're just putting yourself out there in a big way and just waiting for the audience to kill you.
And you're dealing with, in most club situations, you're dealing with a company that's not going to show a profit unless they sell a lot of alcohol.
Yeah,
and so that's who you're dealing with, are the consumers.
Yeah,
and you just hope it gets up to that line where they're just happy. But any given night, I'm sure anybody's ever been to a show has seen that. But it's the one art form people think they can just interrupt and join in and help. You never see that at a play.
This is true.
Anything like that, but that's just what it is, and that's just what you got to deal with. It's part of the business.
So I take it you can understand somebody. Well, you can partly understand somebody like a Jerry Seinfeld, who started as a stand-up comedian. He ended up having his big break, getting his own TV show, which of course we all know became very, very successful and made him a multi-millionaire. He was he was doing so well.
He's a billionaire with a B.
Is he a billionaire? Okay, so he's
he made
really,
it to a B. Yeah,
he's really well up there. He's doing very, very well. And he retired, and everybody retired from the show, and he got bored, and he decided to go back out on tour and do stand up again. Everybody thought he was crazy for doing that, but he did it because he loved doing that.
Yeah. There's a great DVD called Comedian. It's about him. He threw away his entire act, and he went back to all the little clubs in New York City and was rewriting and reworking a new act. And that was the whole process until he had a new show, and he went back and performed it. And because he certainly doesn't need the money.
No.
But it's like, well, you do what, 11 of these a week?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
It's fun.
You have no time off.
No,
but it's fun, so it's not.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, would I love to be making money off of this? Yeah, that's the goal. I do want to get to the point where I'm making money. But in the meantime, I just have a blast doing it because it's so much fun.
Well, that old adage, if you can find something you love to do and then find a way to get paid for it, you never go to work again.
This is true.
And I haven't been to work in 25 years.
It's a rough life, I tell you.
Well, I'm sugarcoating it now. This is supposed to be a positive thing. It'd be the wrong show to tell you the bad end of what I have to go through. So,
no, actually, that's not true. That's not true. No. This is where my Thursday morning co-host, Joel Elston, would step in and say, a lot of the best things that happen in life happen when we have to struggle through them. And he would tell you his own. His story is amazing. Joel, he was a gambling addict. He went to prison for theft. He went through some really rough times, and basically used that. He was even homeless and eating out of a dumpster. Can you believe that? And he turned that whole thing around and basically launched himself from that horrible struggle that he was in. Today, he's a super successful life coach. He has helped, I think it's 37 foster kids who were unadoptable or considered unadoptable, to get forever homes. He has adopted 3 kids on his own. I mean, and he is like one of the most sought after authorities on how to deal with people who other therapists can't seem to resolve the problems for. I mean, that's what this guy has turned his life into. And he started with this really, really bad start. So he would be the first one to say struggle isn't a bad thing. Struggle is actually a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, you don't appreciate the good things until you've had some bad things.
This is true. Yeah. Not that I'm saying that everybody should go out and just, start struggling. That's really not the point. I've been doing plenty of struggling myself. I can tell you it's not all that much fun. But, it's not necessarily something to run away from. So, yeah, we don't run away from struggle. We do try to encourage people not to suffer. That's an important distinction. Suffering is a different thing from struggling. Suffering is where you basically put yourself into a place where you're going to continue to feel miserable no matter what. And that's not a good thing. Yeah. That's actually pretty painful.
Well, every comic I know, we've all got the stories when we started out driving 12 hours to a gig to make $50.
Yeah.
And then nobody showed up. And maybe they have a show and pay you, maybe they don't. Or the hotel they put you in, you would put your worst enemy in. I've got some horror stories about hotels they put us in, because these guys figure, it's just a few days, what do you care? And what they don't understand is, well, for us, that's home this week. And they're trying to save a buck. Not all of them, but the ones that do. And, the paying the dues is some serious stuff. And we all have our stories. We sit back and tell each other and can laugh about it. There's a very common ground for just about everybody that's doing what I'm doing. And some people get to where they are quicker than others, but that's like anything in life, I guess.
It's not a lot different from what I experienced when I was in my 20s. I was a rock star. Well, not really. I was a rock and roller and played in a band, mostly covered stuff, and did very much the same kind of thing, traveling around, playing gigs and so forth, and getting paid next to nothing to play for 5 people in the audience. And yeah, it's a character building.
Well, did you ever hear that story? Glenn Miller's orchestra. They actually put this in the movie, too, I think, that Jimmy Stewart starred in, where their bus broke down and they had to march through the snow, carrying their instruments through mud with their tuxedos on to go a couple of miles to get to the theater. And as they're going through a field, they see this cabin, and they kind of look in the window, and it's a Norman Rockwell scene. There's the beautiful family, the kids reading a book, the husband with the wife, and the nice fire and all that. And these people are out there looking in the window going, sheesh, how can anybody live like that?
Yep. Yep.
And,
Well,
and then when they say, why are you, but no, so too, like when you're going through something like that, it goes, why do you put up with it? And go, what? And quit your business?
yeah, exactly. It may not be all glamour, but it certainly is vital to development. I mean, to what it takes to get to where you want to get to. I think I hear or see somebody calling in. Let's see. Is this Anne-Marie? Who's there?
Hi there, Walt.
Hey there, Anne-Marie. How you doing?
Hi. I'm doing great, thanks. Sorry I'm running late. My Reiki class went a little late today, but boy, am I feeling good.
Well, good. You're going to help raise the energy here. That's a good thing. Mark and I were talking about some stuff that can be a little bit tough at times, and you're going to just come in and just raise the energy right back up. So that's a good thing.
Okay, then. Hi, Mark.
Hey, Anne-Marie, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, thanks. Yeah, I just got my Reiki 1 certificate, so now I can practice Reiki, and it was quite a enjoyable class.
Yeah, congratulations.
What are you all talking about? Sorry, I'm tuning in late here.
Oh, that's all right. The general topic is focusing on what you want and not on what you don't want, keeping it real simple.
Ain't that the truth?
I just heard something great. This made my day. A woman from Connecticut said y'all. This is great. Oh. You have just made my day, made my week.
Well, I lived in Florida for 11 years, so I think...
Oh, that's not the South. No, that's not the South. No, once you get to Tampa, you are not in the South. Well, see, when people tease me about y'all, I say it's encompassing, it's a kind, it's a nice way to group everybody together. And you get up north, and I'll point out to a couple of beautiful women, and it says, you'll look at them and say, you guys. They go, yeah. And I go, you're calling those women guys, and I'm the stupid one?
Right. You're exactly right.
I'm so happy to hear you say y'all. I'm so glad you said that. I didn't know anybody up there knew how to use that word. This is great news. This hour is already a success for me.
I'm glad that we made it worthwhile for you, Mark. This is good.
Well, thank you very much.
And I just want to say y'all are welcome to come back anytime you want.
Y'all come back now.
That's right. For those people who don't know, Mark does his comic routine under a label. Tell people about what exactly your label is. What do you call it? It's not your label. What is it that you call it?
My brand.
Your brand? Okay, yeah.
It's also my logo. It's called Southern Not Stupid.
I
invite everybody to go to southernnotstupid.com. And if anybody wants to talk to me, I have 23 hours a day free. So you could do Mark at southernnotstupid.com, and I'll write you back.
Ooh.
I swear.
That's pretty good offer.
Did I go through something? That just came through. I don't know. Did I go through on that? I said something happened, like a jingle rang, and I hope I didn't get stepped on. But Mark at southernnotstupid.com. Write me. I promise you I'll write you back.
Sounds great.
I'm lonely.
By the way, I've got a couple people I have to acknowledge. Patty Framo, who does the Monday Afternoon podcast with me, gave me a hand wave on the Law of Attraction Facebook group. So, hi there, Patty. How you doing? And another wave from Lee. Hello, Lee. How you doing? So, a couple people just saying, hi, we're looking at you, and thank you for doing the podcast, basically. So
that's nice.
Yeah. So let's see. Focusing on what you want, not what you don't want. We've come up with a number of things we don't want to focus on, so we want to shift away from that. I know. I was starting to ask you before, Mark. You, when you first became a comedian, you had to kind of deal with this idea of moving your own emotional set point, so to speak. 'Cause that's really what we're talking about when we say focus on what you want, not on what you don't want. You're talking about if you're not in a good feeling place, shifting to a good feeling place. When you're a comic, how do you bring yourself to do that, especially if you're facing one of those really dour crowds that is, looks like they're staring back at you with daggers, like, go ahead, I dare you to make me laugh.
I'll give you a couple of examples. There was one time at this place called the Country Rock Cafe in Hampton, Georgia, right next to the NASCAR track. They decided to do comedy every Wednesday night, and I was there for the first show, but they didn't tell anybody. they put it on a chalkboard out front, but nobody knew. So these 8 guys that look like Larry the Cable Guy, you know, the flannel shirts that are chopped off sleeves.
Right.
They're up there, and they like to come drink beer and shoot pool from 8 to 10 every Wednesday. And now they were told they couldn't, and they turned the lights off over the pool table. And I got these guys standing up on a little riser with pool cues sticking up out of their arms, looking like, oh, you better be funny. And, you know, sometimes you can't win. But then another extreme example is when my mother, she passed away on a Monday, and I had to be in Jacksonville on Wednesday to do the weekend. You know, there's no sick pay, and the show must go on. And I won't say I would put it out of my mind. I just figured I knew she wanted me to do well, and I had probably the best shows I ever had in my life was that week.
Wow! And
I didn't know if I could even get on the stage and talk. And you know, maybe it's like you're talking about what you find your the diversity, or not the diversity. What we were talking about earlier, the guy you were telling me about who hit their lows and then used it, or I'm not sure exactly how I did it. To be honest, I'm trying to sound deep, but I got up there and just started going, and the people with me, they didn't know what I was going through. They just knew they were having a great time, and I just kind of lost myself in that.
That's good.
Maybe your mother's energy was with you on the stage.
Maybe. But actually, I do a lot of jokes about her. So I'm not sure she always liked the jokes, but you'll have to go to my website and see the one about the alternative to the nursing home. If you go to southernNotStupid.com, there's a video clip when I was working on Carnival, and you'll know which joke it is. It's only about a 12-minute long clip, but you'll see the one early on about when I couldn't afford a nursing home, what I had to do.
Okay.
Okay.
And these are jokes. When you read it, these are jokes. Please remember that.
All right.
Okay. Yes.
It's one of my most popular ones. But.
Well, Anne-Marie, I mean, you deal with sometimes the same thing with the buttonwood tree because you often have your regulars who come in and check out what's going on and see the acts and so forth. Sometimes you don't have that. So, I mean, if you're facing a crowd that is not your best crowd, how do you get yourself into that better feeling place?
I remember that every person's experience is important. And even if there's only a few people in the room, it's still important to give them the best show possible and the best experience possible.
Exactly. It's not their fault the other people didn't show up.
That's right. They did their part, right?
Yeah. Oh, that's the exact words I use, because when I see a small audience, I see other comics pick on them for being a small audience. I went, they're all you've got. Why would you do that?
Yeah.
And I'll start the show by saying, I'm not going to pick on y'all for being a small audience. You know why? And I make them say why. And I go, because you did your part. And I point over to the empty seats and I say, it's those jerks over there I'm kind of mad at. But just, they paid their ticket. They deserve a good show. They shouldn't be set there and have the whatever performer on stage just phoning it in because it's not crowded, or because they feel like they're too good to not perform in front of a small group. Yeah, that's a real pet peeve with me.
Well, that's actually the sign of a good. Go ahead, Emery. Go ahead.
Well, I think I'm just going to say your point. It's a sign of a good performer, one who doesn't change their performance, or drop their standards, or I mean, it can be changed, but you don't want to drop the level of performance
right.
because there's a smaller audience in the room. You still want to give them a good show, and so.
As a comic, I can't do my show the same for 1,000 people as I do for 10 people, but those 10 people deserve the best show they paid for.
Right.
Or any performer, for that matter.
I think it's actually a mark of a good performer. A good performer will always play to whatever he's got, or whatever she's got, whatever audience that are there. And I found that when I was playing in bands and we only had a very, very small audience, we did really well, even if we had a small number of people, if we interacted with them, which is what you would do normally as a comic anyway, right?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. I'll never forget. We had a woman come in. We had a woman come in who had performed for stadiums in Israel. And in Israel, she was well known, and she filled stadiums there. And she came to the United States, and we were like first on her tour, and nobody knew her. So we had like 6 people in the audience, and she looked around and she goes, "Okay, well, this is great." And she pulled up a chair and she got real close to the 6 people in the audience, and she did a performance that was so soft and so powerful, it left me in tears. And it's still so memorable today. Her name's Yael Deckelbaum. I'll never forget it. It was so powerful and so wonderful. Everybody in the room had such a magical experience. So she changed it, but the quality didn't deter at all. You know, she was just amazing. And that's a sign of a good professional, somebody who can do
and
that.
those 6 people get to brag one day that they saw her win.
That's right.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a place that used to be in Atlanta called the Great Southeast Music Hall that had some legendary stories. Like one night when Jimmy Buffett and Billy Joel played a twin bill for 9 people when they were nobodies.
Oh my goodness!
Wow.
Out of those 9 people, out of those 9 people, there's probably about 50,000 that claimed they were there.
They were there, right? You know? Exactly right. But yeah, what a show to have caught though. Jimmy Buffett and Billy Joel.
Oh yeah,
on the same bill. Oh my goodness. Wow. Ugh. Well, it just goes to show everybody goes through it. I mean, it's not like, you know, the people who are famous just kind of emerged, you know, onto the stage and there was this huge arena of people who were filled. Everybody, they all had to go through something where they were playing for 9 people or maybe multiple times, you know, and that's just the way it is. But they're all opportunities for focusing on what you want. And that's why I admire people who really know how to go into any kind of venue and just make the best of it, because they're the ones who are going to have the best success in life. They're the ones who are going to have the best lives, because they can always find the bright side. They can find the silver lining under any situation.
With very few exceptions, any performer has to start at the rock bottom, because nobody's going to give you a leg up till you've earned it.
That's true. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Silver linings. There's another topic that kind of ties into focusing on what you want, because we talked earlier, Mark, about how it's so easy to focus on really, really bad stuff that goes on in life. We mentioned a few things. And it can be really challenging to find silver linings in those situations. Yet, it really can be done. There's always a silver lining somewhere. And sometimes it seems like if you're focusing on the silver lining, you're disrespecting the people who went through the really bad thing. But the fact is, it does. It seems like that, doesn't it? And you know, people will often point that out. But nevertheless, until we start finding the silver linings and focusing on them, we can't change our own emotional set point. We can't help anyone else get to a better place. And so we end up staying miserable all the time. So that's why I think silver linings are really important, no matter what the situation is. It's often hard to find them, but you have to find them.
You at least have to look for them. You may not be able to find them right away, and sometimes I've noticed sometimes it takes years to find that silver lining that comes out of a tragedy. But you have to trust and have faith that it is there and that it will show up someday. At least that's my belief, and that's how I try to look at difficult situations that I can't see a silver lining right away. I just trust that it's there, and I trust that it'll appear in the right time when I'm ready for it.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah,
you can't always get there right away. You can't just automatically snap into it, especially if you're going through something really difficult. Sometimes you have to kind of get there by degrees. So you're right, it can take some time. But nevertheless, it's still good to look for. I found there have been times where I was feeling just downright depressed and not sure how to change a situation that was going on in my life. And there have been a few of those. And really couldn't even see beyond the depression. That's the worst part. You're in a really bad place like that. You can't even hardly see past it sometimes. But nevertheless, if you put the effort out, you may not be able to get to the good place, but you can get to a place that's better. And that's what I was looking for. I'd always look for something. What's a little bit better?
When you hit rock bottom, you have two choices. You can, like I said, look for the silver lining or give up.
Pretty much it.
Hopefully you don't give up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there are people who do give up, sadly. But ultimately, you have to find some way to say, you know what, I just don't want to live here anymore. Because that's what kills you. When you just decide you're going to live there because you've given up. Because you just, I'm just too tired to try to find something. That's what kills you. That's what ruins your life. You know. So you have to find some little bit of gumption inside of yourself and say, you know what, I just don't want to live here anymore. I want something that's at least a little bit better. I want to find something, better than being depressed. Well, okay, maybe I'll just yell at somebody because that feels better. It's not a great place to be, but it's better than being depressed.
Yeah, well, anger's higher
Jimmy,
on the emotional scale.
It is.
Speaking of Jimmy Buffett, he has a song. I'm a huge fan of his. And if anybody's a fan like me, they know this song called It's My Job. Is there any chance you know that one? It's
been a long time since I heard it.
The storyline in the song is he's depressed and he's sad, and his street sweeper's coming by all happy. Because that's his job, and that's what he does. And in the song it says, if a street sweeper can smile, then I've got no right to, because his career wasn't going where it is, but he was still. He was able to see somebody sweeping streets for a living and be able to take a look back at himself and go, okay, it's really not that bad.
There you go.
Yep. Yeah, I always go back to the same thing.
One of the things that was.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think one of the things that really helped me to remember to look at the bright side especially when things weren't going well, is that I remember how the law of attraction works, and I remember how the universe can only deliver the things that you want when you're in alignment, when you're not depressed, and when you're not angry, when you're not frustrated. And so learning that taught me, okay, you know that the most important thing is to be in alignment, is to allow positive feelings to flow through your body, is to stay in a happy, joyful place. And so that lesson, I think I learned really, really, really well. And so when bad things happen, I know, Anne-Marie, you just have to get yourself back there to feeling well, no matter what. And just knowing that, and knowing that the universe never bends. You know, the universe's laws, they don't go, oh, well, you're having a tough day today, so we'll let you get away with feeling bad for a little while. It's like, no, it's strict. It's one way or no way, you know, it's how it works. So I think trusting that and knowing that and having faith in that law helps me or really encourages me to snap out of it.
Yeah, that was the message that I gave actually to somebody on Facebook this evening. Somebody, I guess in Brazil, they had an election today, and I guess the right-wing candidate beat the left-wing candidate, so that right-wing candidate is now the president, and this person was supporting the left-wing candidate, and she was so depressed about it. And my message to her, as it is to anybody who's going through something like that, is don't keep focusing on the fact that you don't like this other candidate. Don't keep focusing on the fact that you don't like that president. Focus on what you want, not on what you don't want. Because the more that you stay on that what you don't want thing, you're just going to feel more miserable. It's just going to, you're going to turn the status quo into a permanent status quo for you and for everybody else, but especially for you. But if you change your mindset, if you decide to focus on what it is that you do like, what you do want, what you feel is most important to you, you're going to help shift things. And it may not happen instantly, but you will. That's really the most important thing to remember. I mean,
and there's always something good to find in everything. So, you know, their candidate may not be the one that they wanted, but I'm sure that there's something good about that candidate that they can focus on.
And there's something good about the situation. I mean, a lot of people in this country are fans of the president, and a lot of people in this country are opponents of the president. And it's a pretty divided thing. It's a very big divide between the two sides in many ways. But the fact is, the people who continue to focus on the divide continue to get more of the divide. So it doesn't really matter whether you like the president or you don't like the president. The point is, what is it that you do like? What is it that is important to you? And express it to yourself and to others, not in terms of what it isn't, because that's what so often people do. Like, you ask somebody, like, let's say you have somebody who does not like President Trump, okay? So you ask that person, well, what do you want instead? They'll say, well, I want to not have President Trump as president. No, that's the wrong way to look at it. The question is, what do you want, not what you don't want. You're focusing on what you don't want there. What do you want? And similarly, if I
get mad when people say something like, he's not my president. Well, yeah, he is.
Yeah.
You may not have voted for him, but he is. And what are you going to do if you think he's doing something wrong, what are you going to do to get your people together to help right the situation?
Exactly. Yeah.
And if you don't like to respect the man, okay, but respect the office, and then work that way.
Yeah. And similarly, on the right as well, people who are supporters of the president, who are complaining and bitching and moaning about, how the opposition is doing this and how the opposition is doing that and how they're so unfair and fake news. But, well, you know, if you keep focusing on that, guess what you're going to get more of? You're going to get more of that. So what the heck are you focusing on? Focus on what you believe in, not what you don't believe in. But that's what people like to do. They like to focus on what they don't believe in. And then the amazing thing is they think that it's going to change if they do that. That's the thing that's blown my mind for years. I was a political science major in college, and I've known since I graduated that doesn't work. But nevertheless, and I did it too. That's what we do. We focus on what we don't like.
What's that old thing that the definition of insanity is trying to do the same thing over and over and expect a different result?
That's right. Exactly.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. Same thing holds true with careers. People get frustrated. I mean, I see a lot of stuff posted about people just not getting the job they want, or they got the wrong job, or the boss treats them bad, or whatever. And it's the same thing. Well, if you keep focusing on all the stuff that's going wrong, you're never going to find that dream job. It's not going to happen because you're focusing on what's going wrong over and over and over and over again.
All the time in my business. Like, you're at a gig, but you see somebody else that has a better one, and you think you're funnier than that person. I should have been there, and why am I not there? And whenever I even start to get like that, because I don't want to sound like one of those bitter old comics that there's so many of, you have to step back and go, okay, I'm getting paid to travel around the world and tell jokes, and just start from there. And going, okay, I'm not lifting heavy things for a living.
That's right. Very good point. Yeah.
I work 45 minutes a day.
Yeah. I mean, I'm actually doing, like you were talking about before, Mark, I'm doing these 11 podcasts a week. I'm getting paid zip for it. I'm hoping to get paid for it sometime, but for the moment, I'm getting paid zip, and you guys are not getting paid anything either. But nevertheless...
Wait, what? You're not getting paid? What's this? I don't remember that conversation.
You mean I didn't tell you that part? Oh, I'm so sorry. I just kind of slipped on that one. No, but the fact is...
I don't know what
well, okay, we'll have to renegotiate. I'll tell you what, I'll give you a 50% raise. How about that?
Well, now you're talking.
Yeah, but you know, Mark, 50% of nothing is still nothing.
Yeah, I got that. Southern not stupid, remember?
Oh, that's right. I forgot that part, yeah.
Yeah, I do a joke about this old guy that Walmart offered him a job to be a Walmart greeter, offered him $200 a week. He said, hell no, I don't leave the house for less than $500 a month.
I love it. That's great.
Well, the sad part is I was in a restaurant and heard the guy say that.
Really?
So it sounds made up, but I heard the guy say
that was a guy who really said that.
Wow.
Oh my God! Wow.
He was also, before that, they were comparing Walmart to Kmart, as Walmart being the better one. And the leader took over and says, well, everybody in town likes Walmart better. Go by there anytime, day or night. Look at the parking lot. Walmart's always half full. Kmart's half empty.
No.
I can't make this up. It's so simple and stupid. It sounds made up, but I promise you, I was in the booth next to him spitting food. And whenever I get an idea or hear something, I have to write something down, one word, and I'll be able to save it for later. And I had nothing to write with, but I was at a barbecue place that, you know, those ketchup bottles and barbecue sauce that's like a squeeze, a right stream.
Yeah.
I wrote the word Walmart and barbecue sauce on my plate so I could borrow a pen.
Oh, that's great. That's funny.
Well, it makes sense. I mean, of course you're going to get your material from the real world, but I mean, how often do you run into this where the real world is so crazy that no one would believe it?
I tell people, sometimes I open a show in a smaller crowd and say, just go, you're my new friends. I want to be a little intimate. We're going to give you some Comedy 101. It says, have you ever wondered where a comic gets their material? It's real simple. I don't have a job. I sit around all week watching y'all do stupid stuff. On the weekend, you buy a ticket, I stand on the stage, tell you what you did. Sometimes just that simple.
There you go.
I love it. That's great.
If you ever hear my stuff, everything I say came from something. It may be a huge exaggeration because that's where the funny is, but everything was inspired by something that I saw happen or happened to me.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I believe it. Hey, I got to ask you.
Turning a bad into a good.
Yeah. Well, something else that occurred to me, too. One of the things I used to love when I was a kid watching television was if it would be like an Art Linkletter or somebody like that who would bring kids up.
Oh, kids say the darndest things.
Yeah, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you ever use kid material?
Yeah. No, but my wife, she just started doing stand-up a couple years ago. And she's a retired school teacher. Excuse me. And she calls her these things she wrote in Facebook all the time. She's archived them, and y'all need to friend her. See, it's called Planet Evans, because these kids will say things, and the real things that these first graders are saying, and then it always ends up with, and then my head exploded.
Yeah, right.
And we're compiling them now to get some nice little. Remember those Garfield books back in the '80s? You could sit in the toilet and just read through.
Yeah.
And that's what it's going to be. It's going to be a great toilet read. And we're both procrastinators. Although if we get our act together, and she's got 5 books compiled, like if she just get them all and put them together, and it's the same thing though. It's all based on the kids saying things you can't believe came out of their mouths.
It's a great source because, I mean, kids are probably the most, I don't want to say malleable because it sounds wrong. They're most flexible.
Brutally honest.
Brutally honest, that too.
Honest.
They're brutally honest. But they just don't get locked into social mores and so forth. So they can just feel relaxed and just say what they believe and say what they feel and you know, like you said, they're just honest. It just comes out so clean. And it just strikes me that's like that's like one of the best sources you can go to understand how to see a silver lining under any circumstances is to a kid. Kids are so good at finding silver linings, better than adults are.
This has been told several times. I know it's happened because it happened to a friend of mine. Had their little kid with them in line at a grocery store, and a very, very large woman was in front of them in line, and their beeper went off. And the kid screamed, goes, "Watch out, she's backing up."
Oh, that's funny.
And what can the parent do? Just sorry.
Yeah. Well, I run into it directly myself because of my height, because I'm 6'8", and if I'm walking down. Oh yeah, if I'm walking in a supermarket or whatever, inevitably I get one of these. Mommy, he's tall. And the mom say, "No, shh, don't say that."
Wow, I'm 6'3", and I get to be the shrimp. If we're ever doing something together live, that'd
How
be
about
great.
that?
I've never been the shrimp.
I actually had that opportunity.
I'll come along and I'll be the shrimp because I'm only 5'3.5", so I'm tiny.
But you're a woman,
I'll
so
be
it's
the
okay.
shrimp.
5'3" is an average height for a woman. So you're good.
I don't know. I think I'm still a shrimp for a woman, but that's okay.
Well, yeah, because you said and a half. Anybody that still throws that and a half, you know, it's like an 8-year-old. How old are you? I'm 8.5.
Yes.
I'm going on 9.
That's the dead giveaway. That's true.
Going on 5'4". You're still hoping.
Yep. I'm trying to stretch myself so I don't get shorter, but I don't think it's working.
Louise, my wife is 6'6.5". She said when we were first talking on the phone. She says, "I'm 5'6.5" if I step on my tiptoes," and that kind of won me over because I figured she was trying really hard to get up to my height. So I gave her extra credit for that.
There you go. That's good.
I actually had an opportunity too. Speaking of height, you were talking about how if the two of us end up in the same room, you'll actually get to enjoy seeing somebody taller. I had that experience one time.
Yeah.
I was
really?
Yeah,
Who was
I was
that?
quite young. I was just out of college. I was working in Albany, New York, and I went into this little museum that was in this one building here, and there was a guy there who I swear he must have been 7 foot. And I couldn't believe it because I rarely see anybody taller than I am. And he was a good 4 inches taller than me. So I very casually as a 22-year-old can do, casually walked up to just stand like within 3 or 4 feet of him looking at the same painting that he was looking at and hope that he didn't see me like sidling over with my glance to see, wow, he really is that much taller than I am. It's a big deal when you're tall because you don't get that opportunity very often.
Oh, yeah. Have you ever heard of Puddle's Pity Party?
I don't know it.
They ring a bell?
No.
I think
He's on America's Got Talent. I've seen him. He's it's a 7-foot clown with a golden voice. Okay, and he's 7 feet tall. Clown. He puts on an amazing show. But if you just Google him and listen to him sing anything, he just is incredible. But when he does a show, he'll stop and say hello to everybody and get pictures, and he towers over me.
Wow.
Cool.
Hey, I just noticed we
got from Penn and Teller. I got to meet him, and I came up to his nipples. You know, this guy.
Linda Armstrong, who does the Friday afternoon podcast with me, she was tuning in. She says that we're paid in loving energy. That will come back for sure. So that's our way of focusing on the fact that the dollars aren't quite here yet, Mark, but they're coming soon.
Oh, you're still on that. I let that go. It's all right.
I would let it go too, except Linda posted, so I had to respond to it. I mean, if somebody's responding, I gotta.
She did. I see.
Yeah, I gotta acknowledge it. So
you're letting me say my website in front of 89,000 people.
I am.
Listeners. That's pay enough.
Well, that's true.
The power of broadcast, the power of the internet. You can't put a price tag on that.
That is true. That is very true.
There you go.
So anyway, hi Linda.
Thanks for joining in. You can't. You've got no money. You can't put a price tag.
Well, you can. Just you won't get the price necessarily. That's the problem.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, jeez. So getting back to the topic, okay? Focusing on what you want. What are your favorite techniques if you're in a bad place? How do you get yourself back to that good feeling place soon? Because you, especially as a comic, Mark, you need to. How do you do that fastest? What's your best trick?
It's my job. It's just that simple. I can't let a bad day affect my job, because one thing the people deserve my best, and I want to come back and do it again. And if you let your bad things get in the way, if you can't put it behind you and put on the face, then you got no business doing this.
So you treat it as a job requirement.
That's my motivation. It is. That's what it is. I mean, if you can't do that, you need to find something else to do. Because nobody's going to have a good day every day they have to go to work. And in my job, when I get up in front of anywhere from 20 to 2,000 people, I can't be having a bad day. Because if it was one comic used to say to people and the audience going, I hope y'all had a good day at work, because if you didn't have a good day at work, it means I'm going to have a bad day at work.
Yep. Yeah, that's true. But nevertheless, yeah.
I mean, they did come to, like I said earlier, that's half the battle is they came because they wanted to laugh. So that's what they want. And you just have to be able to be good enough to give it to them.
Does that actually help, by the way? I've often wondered about that. I mean, if you're a comic and you get up on stage and you know your audience wants you to make them laugh, does that make it easier or does it make it harder?
Oh, yeah. Because like I said earlier, some of these one-nighters, like I mentioned that one where those four guys or eight guys shooting pool didn't know there was going to be a show that night.
Yeah.
That's hard. That's impossible.
Yeah.
But everybody that comes to a comedy club, they've made plans all week. They've called their friends. They've gotten babysitters. They've called Uber, whatever it is. They came because for one reason they wanted to come together and laugh. Mm-hmm. And you still got to have you got to bring it still. Yeah. But it's just like if you ever see a big celebrity comedian, they won't even do a lot of material the first 10 minutes because they're letting the people absorb, holy cow, that's so-and-so. Mm. But so everybody gets a free pass for about 10 minutes. But after that, if you don't have it, no matter how big and famous you are, you're in trouble.
Except for Robin Williams, because he was just crazy all the time. But nevertheless, I see your point.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. He wasn't crazy for a living. He was just crazy.
Yeah.
Actually, he was a wonderful stream of consciousness. That's another interesting question for you as a comic. Robin was really, really good at stream of consciousness. Now, he obviously had his things that he had previously worked out, and he would tie them in and so forth. But he did it through his stream of consciousness so well that you didn't even know he was mixing it in. I mean, I remember that biopic that I told you about. He played Carnegie Hall, and the guy who helped produce the show for him, during the preparation and the practices, he helped him work out his routine for the performance at Carnegie Hall. And then he said the night of it, 25% of the material was brand new. So he was basically inventing on the fly while he was doing the show. Is that something that you find that yourself doing? Yeah. I would call that getting inspiration, but is that something you do?
Well, not to burst your bubble, but Robin Williams was also one of the biggest comedy thieves in the business.
Oh, no doubt.
He would take somebody else's joke, but when he stole it, he'd do the joke better than the guy that wrote it. So,
yeah.
What are you going to do?
Yeah.
But, things will happen. And there's been times when I first started out and I said something different, and I didn't know I said something different. And all of us in our little clique knew each other's acts. So I got this huge laugh. I didn't even know what I said. So when the show was over, I went back there and goes, did I say something different? They go, yeah. I goes, what was it? They go, how much money you got? They hold it over your head. But it's good if you record stuff. And there was one time I said something that was a great tag or ad lib or something, and it just broke the audience up. And I told the person in the front row, this lady says, could you write that down for me? And she's laughed. I stopped the show. No, I'm serious. Can you please write that down? Forget. I'm not going to know I said this. Just write these 2 words down, and I'll remember what it was for later. And she went, are you serious? I went, please. so we can continue the show. So she wrote it down, gave me the piece of paper, and we moved on. And it's funny how when that does hit you, because if you do something that just hits you like that, when you get off stage, you may not have a clue what you ever said.
Yeah. Well, I've experienced it with the podcast.
It's not going on autopilot.
I didn't know I said y'all. So you talked about it. I was like, oh yeah, I do use that. I must.
I don't want to stop you. Believe me, I wasn't making fun of you. I was applauding you. So. Do not stop.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I didn't even realize it because it's true. Sometimes you don't know what you're saying, especially I imagine if you're on stage. Like that's I don't know. How long did it take you? Like were you a national comedian?
Oh, like we were talking about earlier, I was never the class clown, but I loved jokes and I loved watching comedy. Never in a million years did I dream I'd get up and be able to do it. And I didn't know how somebody could memorize that much material. And what I tell people now is like somebody goes, how do you stand up there for an hour and know all that stuff you're going to say? And I'll ask them what they do for a living. And like, let's say they're a mechanic. I said, okay, I bet you could spend an hour telling me how you tear down an engine and put it back together, don't you? They go, well, yeah, because it's what you do.
Yep.
If that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, no.
Do you remember your first gig?
It does.
Oh, yeah. It was horrible. Because I sucked. I took a workshop, and the guy that taught the workshop, he brought me along to open for him. And it was in a place in Noonan, Georgia, a little redneck dive that had an airplane sticking out of the roof. And he made sure that we were in the whole workshop. He made sure that we worked clean, and that was his big thing. And as we're walking in this redneck dive, he's going, "You know what the comedy math equation is, don't you?" I said, "No, you never taught me that." He said, "You add up the number of pickup trucks in the parking lot and multiply times 2, and that's how many crotch jokes, we'll say it that way, crotch jokes you need for the night." And I go, "Thanks, Jeff. You just spent the last 6 weeks making sure I had none." So,
yeah, that was a bit of a setup, I would have to say.
Yeah.
But
it's weird when you're doing that.
But you did it though. That's the thing.
At the time. Yeah, oh yeah.
I mean,
and at the time I thought my stuff was great. But yeah, I look back and I go, wow, I can't believe I said that on stage. And I'm imagining 5 years from now, I'm going to look back at what I did this weekend and go, wow, I can't believe I said that on stage. Because you're hopefully always progressing.
Yeah, but the fact is that you still got up anyway, despite the fact you probably had lots of butterflies because that's the way it usually goes in the first one, right? And in retrospect, you sucked in your own words, but nevertheless, you got up and did it anyway. That's a big deal.
Well, that was my first show to the real world. My first show was that the workshop had a graduation show for your friends and family, and we had it at the Punchline Comedy Club. At the time, it was the premier club in the Southeast. 300 people, packed house. And I remember before the show started, I was sitting at the bar looking out the door going, I could just leave. I won't ask for my money back. I'll just leave. And, but you get up there, and it's a roller coaster ride that you just can't, like I said, I help him teach his workshop now. And I tell these people that there's no way I can describe to you what it's going to feel like, but I'll talk to you when you get off stage from the graduation, because it's like you're in the club now. Whether you pursue it or not, but you get that feeling of having 300 strangers crack up on what you're saying.
Yeah, that's got to be an adrenaline rush, no matter how you like it.
It is.
Yeah. Cool. That's cool.
I mean, Emory doesn't get 300 people in her club because it doesn't fit 300, but you still get enough people in there that you can fill the club. And that's also an adrenaline rush for you, I would think.
Oh.
Yeah, it is. It is. And
my favorite club in Atlanta only seats 54.
Is that right?
Yeah, and when it's packed, you think you're in a dome full of people. I love those smaller rooms because you can really make stuff happen.
That's really good.
Because you connect with people really well.
Yeah. I'd rather play for 50 people in a 50-seat room than 300 people in a 2,000-seat room.
Sure.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yep. Isn't it funny how the size of the room
that.
really matters?
Oh, completely, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we got a little away from the topic, but nevertheless, it all ties in together about focusing on what you want. No, that's okay. This has been good, and I enjoyed it. The only bad part is we ran out of time. If it wasn't for that, it'd be even better. But this has been good, so thank you for doing it. I want to remind people who are not yet subscribers, become a subscriber. The instructions on how to do it on the homepage of our website at loatoday.net, and also for people who are existing subscribers as well, please post on your social media channel that you're listening to loatoday.net, because that's one of the ways that we pass the word around and get everybody into that place of getting their daily dose of happy. And Mark, got any gigs coming up you want to announce, or we're just going to carry it on till next week, or what's going on?
Let's see, I'm doing some local things. I'll be in South Bend on the 20th of November.
Okay.
Indiana, up Notre Dame country.
All right.
But most of these are little smaller private things between now and then.
Sounds good.
I'm judging a contest in Savannah, Georgia next week.
Emery, you got anything coming up at the Buttonwood we should know about?
Oh, I'll tell you. Well, we do storytelling this Friday night. Saturday night, Walt Kennedy's coming. They're a pop duo, kind of folk songs, and he's an amazing guitarist. Pete Kennedy. He's played with all the big shots, and he's just an amazing guitarist. So that's Saturday night, November 3rd at the Buttonwood Tree. You can find out more at buttonwood.org. That's going to be a great show. Just a great show. So it's very high energy, a lot of fun. Great duo. They've been married 20 years, playing together 20 years. It'll be a lot of fun. And every first Friday we do storytelling. So, Walt, come on over and tell us a story.
All right. Very good. Well, that's it then. We will see you all next time here on All Way Today. Goodbye, everybody.